Hello, everyone, and welcome to another XTIVIA Live Session, the 12 intangible benefits your business may be delivering, even if you don't know it, presented by Lynn Scheurell. My name is Alex Killian, and I'm the video producer and editor here on XTIVIA's marketing team. Before we dive into our live session topic this morning, I want to tell you just a little bit about our company. Since 1992, XTIVIA has established a proven reputation as a company that delivers leading-edge IT solutions and technology support for our clients' very specific requirements, regardless of the project's complexity. Our service areas include mobile app development, BIDW, CRM, ERP, data management, web portal, digital experience design, and EIM services and solutions. And our success really stems from a demonstrated ability to deliver deep expertise via professional services, empowering our clients to leverage their chosen technology successfully, competitively, and profitably. And we've got offices in Colorado, New York, New Jersey, Missouri, Texas, and Virginia. And today, we will be hearing from Lynn Scheurell, the Lead Digital Strategist for XTIVIA. Lynn has been creating experiences through content and copy in digital marketing and messaging since 1998. She's known for her unique perspective, positive, empowering mindset, and her abilities as a high communicator to deliver significant value. She translates complex concepts into simple clarity for practical action, and we're lucky enough to get some of that here today. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited about sharing this information. So today we're going to cover, I kind of thought to organize this in really kind of 4 parts. The evolution of value in sales, the value communication points, of course, the 12 intangible benefits, and then, what to do with that. So, one of the things that I have found in the course of doing business for many years now, to more than I want to count, actually, most companies really don't know how far their value extends for their brand and their offerings. And that's something that I would love to support changing. So let's talk about, let's start with talking about what sales has done, how sales has evolved. So next slide. Okay, so here we go. Now, this is kind of a broad continuum, right? But, as far as I could go back, the 1920s is where people really started talking about what sales looks like. And I'm sure that there's a history before, and I'm sure I'm probably missing a few things. But in general, in the 20s, it was like, what makes people tick? And then in the 50s, it moved into a very kind of, kind of formulaic. And then in the 60s, also formulaic. And it was about problem solving and feature selling. And then it moved into spin selling and benefit selling, and then adaptive selling in the 1990s, adapting to what's going on in that dynamic sales conversation. Then it moved into range selling, and then relationship selling or trust-based selling, or, I think it was in 2011 that the challenger sale was introduced. And it, that's a fascinating model, but it's not always the best one for everybody. Anyway, now we're into value-based selling and symbiotic selling. What is the common thread of all of these sales approaches? It's about addressing the mental conversation in your future customer's mind. And we've all been there. We've all been that customer, right? The first thing we think is, who is this person talking to me, and are they credible? The next thing we want to find out is, what are they offering? Then, why is it relevant to me? Why should I care? Then, how does it work? And then, how do I sign up? So those are the 5 questions that any potential customer is asking throughout a sales process. And so no matter the approach, we have to be able to address that. We have to show what the value of our solution is for that future customer, regardless of the sales approach. Next slide. So in doing that, we have to look at how we're communicating value. So really, something that people don't think about is, and we talk about it, but I don't know, maybe it's, I really just wanted to call it out. Marketing and sales are really on the same continuum. So marketing is about positioning and sales is about personalizing, but we are sharing those same messages of value across that entire continuum. So value is the connection between your messaging and your audience and your products and services. So where does your company express its customer value or its brand promise? Well, that's a little bit of a pop quiz kind of question because it's pretty obvious, right? It's like everything that your company does, whether it's, events or brochures and obviously the value proposition, like everything is an opportunity to create your brand promise and value to your customers. Well, your customers, your employees, and your partners, your stakeholders. So that's a whole nother conversation. But to everybody that's connected with your brand, every touch point becomes a place to communicate your value. Next slide. So now we've got to think about, why do people buy? Well, of course, there's a know, like, and trust factor. We all kind of know that. We all want to do business with people we know, like, and trust. And that's a very emotional and subjective criteria. Then there is what I call, I don't know if this is actually a formal term or not, but I call it the heuristic impulse. I learned this one when I was a retailer. I used to run a boutique. I was an owner, and I ran my own boutique. And I would buy the most perfect merchandise. Like, I would hand select it. I would lay it out beautifully and organize it. And it was just so you could walk in and just look at a glance and just know if you had the right product. Well, I was not converting. Like, people weren't buying. And then one day I thought, what if I set up a table and just pile a whole bunch of stuff on it, because I got to move it. I just need to get it out of the way. I'm going to do more beautiful displays. Well, I did that. People ignored the beautiful displays. They went straight to that table and they started digging. They just started digging. They loved it, and we've all done it, right? We go right for that, mountain of stuff, and we do our own little personal discovery, archaeological dig, and then we want to find something because now we've invested ourselves in that, and then we find our treasure, and then it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to reward myself by buying it. So, it's that heuristic kind of impulse, and again, very subjective, very, intangible. And then thirdly, of course, is what we've kind of already talked about, but the emotion is what makes a decision, and then we substantiate that decision through logic. So, and we've all done that, right? It's we can talk about everything from chunky monkey to ice cream to buying a car to whatever, like taking that vacation, anything that we are thinking about. If we really want it, we're going to find a way to rationalize it and make it make sense. So, is it important for us to know how to speak to intangible value in business? I would submit yes. And we don't even know, by the way, why this guy bought this. I just thought this was like a great example of like, what? Obviously emotion overrode, logic on that one. And he's at an ATM. He's got, he's trying to get more money to go out and buy another purchase that's going to be driven by some emotion or the know, like, and trust factor, or something he's found and discovered for himself and that he now wants to, partake of. So, why people buy, it's very, it's an intangible. So let's keep going. Let's next slide. So this is why we're going to talk about the intangible benefits that your company may be delivering even now, and that you might not be thinking about in terms of your marketing messaging and all those things we talked about in that word cloud. Well, we didn't really talk about them, but that we referenced, like everything about your brand promise can be communicating one of these intangible benefits. And here's the first three. First of all, clarity. You might be helping your audience gain clarity where they didn't even know that they didn't have it. They may not even know what they're confused about, or they may not know how to articulate their problem. So the person who can articulate the issue is generally the one that we presume to be able to solve it. So, the more credible we are and the faster we solve it, the more business that we have, right? So it's about clarity. Secondly, learning faster. We want to compress that learning curve. We want to accelerate how fast our customer can get to the outcome that they're looking for. And so when we help our customers integrate knowledge into what they're confronting, into their problems, their situation, whatever, if they can get through that faster and get faster results, we're helping them in a way that maybe we're not always thinking about. So gaining clarity, learning faster, and then designing their outcome. So our work as business people naturally causes people to have to decide what they want from it, because how do we measure success, right? So we have to help design the outcome. And sometimes it's the process of doing interviews or a situational snapshot or a needs assessment or some sort of organizational deep dive, whatever it is. When we can help our customers determine what they want, then that's the first step in actually getting to experience it. So And that's one of the things that actually XTIVIA is known for. Our tagline literally, if you can imagine the business outcome, XTIVIA can create it with technology, and we will help you do that. So we're not really a normal tech company because, many of our technicians we have deep dive expertise, and many of them will open their mouths and zeros and ones fall out of their mouth. And amazingly, many of them are also versed in business targets. So it's not, you can't have technology in a vacuum without understanding what the outcome of that technology is going to be, right? So anyway, it's something that's where we go. We're a creator brand, so we help create something that is going to provide sustainable and lasting value for our customers. Anyway, so I didn't mean to go into a commercial there. It's the fastest reference that I had. But anyway, so you could be helping your customers gain clarity, learn faster, design their outcome next. So here's a few more that you might want to share with or think about in a different way when you're talking about your marketing or having customer conversations. You might be helping them upgrade their resources. So obviously your customer needs something, right? The whole point of business is that somebody needs something that somebody else can provide. So when you can help your customers upgrade their resources, resources as everything from technology, if you have technology debt or shadow IT or something like that, or resources can be how they're doing something. It can be where they're gaining more time, maybe more efficiency, whatever it is. Upgrading their resources, that is something, if you're not thinking about how you're doing that with your customers, maybe you should be. So it's also about elevating thinking. Transformation is a hot topic, digital transformation especially, but true transformation happens through new concepts, not goals or activities-based support. And that is just a big statement when you think about it. So when you have more sophistication, when you have more refinement in how you're approaching something, when you change your perspective and perception becomes clarified, now you have some elevated thinking and you can solve problems from a very different place. I just glitched on something. I read something this morning that I thought was fascinating. When zippers started replacing buttons, people said, oh, we're not going to adopt those zippers because they're sinful. And it's like, what? Well, zippers help you disrobe more quickly. Isn't that amazing? Like now we're just like, oh, if it doesn't have a zipper, I don't want, now we're thinking Velcro, right? But at the time, the people, the button people needed to elevate their thinking. And now we're a living product of that in our society. These are just even small things to share with you. But anyway, and then replacing outdated paradigms. So when we can help our customers identify what's not working, and when we can show what the habits are and where the ruts are, then new possibilities and opportunities will emerge. So maybe that's something that you're doing now with your customers that you haven't really thought about. And maybe it's something you want to start calling out. Next slide. So, your solution's value might be just much greater than what you're thinking about. Here's another one, getting beyond the old. And this is hard. I don't know about you, but for me at one time in life, letting go meant claw marks. So, it's important to let go of, oh, well, we've been doing it this way for so long, or, well, we have already invested money in that way, or whatever it is that was, what got us here won't get us there. So you have to let go. You have to get beyond the old. And when you can absolutely be in the present moment, now you have the gift, or your customer has the gift of being able to look forward. But if you're always looking, you can't run a race by looking backwards, right? So you got to get beyond the old. Expanding perception. This is so big. This is transformation right here. When you have new awareness, it creates new options because you're adding ideas, concepts, solutions, or conversely, you're taking things away. That's creative destructionism, right? So when you are letting go of what's not working, when you are moving towards where you want to be, as opposed to hanging on to that, this is related to that getting beyond the old, but you want to make sure that your customers appreciate they're helping them expand their perception. And then, of course, affording new possibility. I mean, this is visioneering, right? Imagineering. This is when customers want something more. They may not even know what they want. And the comfort zone might be preventing them from seeing their own possibilities. So when you can open up that dynamic gap to kind of explore in there, that's when you get back to the heuristic impulse, right? So you kind of dig around in there, and it's fun and it's exciting and people want to be a part of that. So when you can show show someone how to move beyond where they are, beyond the inertia, break the inertia, beyond the stagnancy, that is a tremendous value. And even one of these 12 is enough to actually show your customers that you're thinking about them in a new way. So I highly encourage you to kind of think about this. Next slide. So we've got, here's the final batch, but advancing wholeness, where there's a holistic approach, holistic perspective, there's just less conflict because everything is starting to work together. So, you know, and you have to think about that in a change process, especially around something like maybe digital transformation. People get hooked into what they already know. Maybe they're frustrated, but they don't know how to get out of it. Maybe they have resistance to this new idea. But you know, where there's a holistic approach and when people see the bigger picture, there's just no need to justify or defend what it is that they thought that they knew, because it no longer has relevance. It just doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, well, of course it needs to work like that because that's the whole system now, you know. So, and you know, let's go back, let's talk about marketing and sales, right? That is a whole system. And so often it gets compartmentalized. And so the marketing team is doing one thing and the sales team is having other conversations. And then there becomes this disconnect, and it's just a very fragmented way to approach it. So you need to have wholeness. And when you are the company, the provider, the vendor who is advancing wholeness to benefit your customers, the value of that just cannot be measured. So innovating solutions. So when you are solving problems in new ways, you are helping your customers experience possibility and action. They gain fresh confidence. There's a new identity about their now. You know, it's again getting current. And the only thing in that is that sometimes people want to bypass the now and go straight to the future. So that's something I've seen where it's like, you know, you kind of have to do the homework, right? So you kind of have to go to grade school and then you go to high school and then, you know, like there's just a progression. And sometimes if you leap too far, you end up having to come back. But the goal here was to share with you the intangible value. A lot of people not talk about what they're doing as an innovator. And by the way, there's 7 different ways that you can innovate solutions. That's a whole nother topic. If you want, let me know and we'll put that together if that sounds interesting to you. But anyway, and orienting around truth. This is huge. Sometimes there's denial. Sometimes it's habitual. You know, the things that when things are the way they are and they've been that way for a really long time, it's just really easy to go, oh, you know, that's, you know, we have blinders. We're humans. Humans filter out the familiar. So sometimes, you know, our customers don't really recognize what's happening. They don't know that they have legacy debt or legacy tech or tech debt. I put those concepts together, but you know, sometimes people don't know, oh wow, that system is really outdated and it's costing us more to try to keep that thing limping along than to just make an upgrade, right? So when you can talk about the truth in a kind of open and understanding and compassionate way, it's like, oh yeah, I can't believe we missed that. Or maybe a truth is that, hey, if you're not upgrading your resources or advancing or innovating your solutions, your competitors will, and you're going to be left obsolete, right? So that's a hard conversation to have. Sometimes truth will slap you in the face. I don't really like that approach, but at the same time, you know, the truth is what it is. Now, okay, now the philosophical part of me, it's like, well, there's, you know, your truth and my truth and the truth, you know, but when you put them all together, now you're having a meaningful exchange and you give yourself new options. Okay, so next slide. So these benefits can really change everything for you. Oh, here's an example of the heuristic impulse with XTIVIA. So I do want to share with you that we do as a, you know, again, we're not a normal technology company just by virtue of sponsoring this content. This is not something that most IT implementers or integrators would talk about, but we're truly supporting digital transformation. And so the inner ring here is, I don't know, maybe this should be called process services. You know, it's more the systems, the tech, and the, you know, it's the deliverables maybe in a way. But then we also have these other deliverables in that second outer ring. I called it virtual, but I think that's a dumb name too. So I think that should maybe be called the people services, or I don't know, maybe you can help me name that. But anyway, the outer ring is things like training and, you know, staff augmentation and recruiting and software selection, and marketing strategy. You know, I'm just going to put in a plug on that one because that's one of my favorites, obviously. But you know, IT strategic planning, user training, dashboard customizations, all those things things that are around those core kind of tech functionalities. And so, you know, we're not a normal company, and I'm happy to say that. So, you know, if any of this has either an appeal, or you have a need, or even if you're not even sure what it is, let's have a chat. You know, we have people that can help sort that stuff out. Okay, so next slide. What's next? I think this part is where, oh yeah, I would love to talk about and explore your intangible benefits. So if you aren't sure what yours are, me and anyone on our marketing team can talk about and explore what your digital brand looks like. What's your brand promise? What's coming across in your marketing? So, you know, we're more than happy to have those conversations. So I know I kind of powered through all of this really quickly. I imagine that, you know, you're going to want to kind of think about some of this stuff. You know, this is really knowing these intangible benefits for your brand means that you can orient some of your messaging, your positioning, what you say in customer conversations. So there's just all kinds of opportunities with this. So you know, in case, I don't know if anyone has live questions. Alex, has anybody submitted anything we should talk about?
Yeah, we actually got one question in. We've got a little bit of time left.
Okay.
Our question is, how do I know if my company is ready for digital transformation?
Oh, that's such a great question. Oh my gosh. Well, there's actually a number of ways. You know, first of all, you want to look at what your customers are experiencing. And if your customers are not experiencing a smooth and seamless, positive relationship with your company that keeps them going and growing, that's one way. Obviously, using your customers and your relationships with customers as a barometer. Another way is internal. So if your workflows are kind of clunky, if your users and employees aren't quite connecting, if you have silos in your company, if communication is kind of stunted or stagnant, those are all, you know, the other thing you want to look at is, you know, what's going on in the field. And this isn't about competition. I mean, it is, but it's, you know, you want to be aware of what's happening in the industry, because that is what your current and future customers are seeing, right? So they're out there looking in the marketplace. If any of these factors are getting in the way, you know, whether it's the industry is having different conversations than what you're addressing, if technology is moving your industry forward and your company has not gotten there yet, if your customers, users, employees, partners, if they're not having a good experience, if you're seeing anything in your social media channels that says, you know, hey, you know, you could be doing this better, or we were looking for this. If you have exit interviews with potential future customers who don't, where you've got opportunities lost, that's a good barometer. If you've got exit interviews with employees who are leaving the company, who, you know, maybe now they want to share a little bit about what they see. If your salespeople, they're on the field, they're talking to people. So if they're hearing things back, and sometimes, you know what, it's an amazing tool that is so deceptively said, just call and talk to current customers, current partners, current vendors, and just ask, hey, what's your experience with us? Is there anything that you see that we could be doing better? Any of these, there's so many different ways to trigger a digital transformation process. And obviously, you know, we're happy to help support that as well, because we do organizational assessments. We do digital brand analysis. We will help you understand what's happening in terms of connecting all your data streams. You know, that's something that companies don't think about, especially if your company's been around for, you know, 100 years. You know, XTIVIA works with some of the biggest names in the business, even though we can't always talk about them. But we work in all kinds of industries, all kinds of verticals, with all companies of all different sizes. And what happens is that sometimes companies don't know that their data is choppy. So maybe they don't realize that they don't have a unified view of their customer, or maybe they've never really thought about having a data strategy or setting up a data governance committee. Maybe they don't know how to handle business process management. What's the change process going to look like? You know, technology is a beautiful thing. It does amazing stuff. But you know what? It's powered by the people. So it's a very symbiotic relationship there. So if people aren't on board, you got to look at what's going on. Where's the resistance? Where's the constraint? What's going on? What do people need? Is it about awareness? Do they need the bigger picture? Do they need to expand their thinking? All of these things can be triggers for a digital transformation process. And one more point, I know I'm on a roll, but sorry, but I get going. Leadership, you've got to have visionary leadership. And so leaders, get out there, see what's going on in the field, talk to people, go to events, read, magazines and articles and whatever, the leaders. Right now, the CEOs are holding the main mandate for creating a digital transformation process. And then the CIOs or CTOs are charged with making it work. And the CMOs are charged with creating the strategy. So there's some big roles that need to be fulfilled, but the CEOs are definitely, I've heard Mark Benioff said, I think he said that 95% of CEOs need to think about digital transformation. So it's a hot topic. I don't know, I probably went all the way around it, but I hope that was helpful.
So we actually had one more question come in. I think we've got time still. We have begun the digital transformation journey at our company. Any suggestions for helping adoption?
Oh gosh, yeah. There's all kinds of different ways you can do that. You definitely want to, this is actually overlooked by a lot of companies. You actually do want to strategize. You want to have a plan of how you're going to approach rolling out information. You definitely want to have that plan together. You want to identify and then invite your internal champions and influencers to be a part of that process. Then you want to take a look at what's happening within different teams or divisions or units. You want to start having meetings. You want to have practical action steps. You want to allay any fear or resistance. So it's a communicate. You want to do it in writing. You want to do it in videos. You want to do it in personal meetings. You want to do it in, whatever way. If you have an intranet, all of these ways that to connect with and give people access to information, because in the absence of information, people will make up stories, right? They're going to just make stuff up. And so you want to over communicate. So have a kickoff, have employee meetings, encourage an open door policy, proactively check in with people to see how things are going. So really you want to make sure that people have the plan and they understand. And sometimes people get so committed to doing a good job the way that they've always done it, that they are afraid to change it because they don't know what the value will be of their new role or what the next thing is. So they kind of, it comes from dedication. That's my point. People get so dedicated. And so when they don't have that bigger picture, they're just going to keep doing what they know works as opposed to trying something new. So I hope that gave some insights or maybe something to think about. Anyway, thanks for asking that one.
Awesome. We have just a few more minutes. We have another question that came in. So
wow. Okay.
I think if we go quickly, we can get through it.
Okay.
Does it matter if I am B2B or B2C to start digital transformation?
Such a good question. Actually, it does not, because any business is here to serve customers. And the way that customers are served is through employees and partners. So whichever type of business structure or business model you have, ultimately it's about serving, it's about delivering value. And so a digital transformation process is really about how to deliver greater value to your customers and maybe their end customers. So if it's B2B, it's to your customer who serves other end customers. If it's B2C, then it's helping them serve their, no matter what, it's about delivering greater value. So whatever your offer, whatever you're selling, whatever industry, however old your company is, it doesn't matter if you've been in business for, a couple of years or, 50 years. If you need to up level into, with a digital transformation process, it's the best way to create new opportunities and reinforce existing relationships. It's not always just about attracting new relationships. It is, but it really is about initiating a process that just makes it even easier for you to deliver greater value.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Lynn,
Okay.
thank you so much for all that great info.
Thank you.
As a reminder, these XTIVIA Live sessions are happening every fourth Thursday of the month. So if you enjoyed this, make sure to tune in for the next one. And if you like these live sessions, click that like button and subscribe to our channel so you can keep up to date with all of our content. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a great Thursday, everybody.